Welcome to Relationships and Astrology, and this is our series on love and the planets. And I'm Margaret Gray in Dublin.
And I'm Armand Diaz in New York.
So what a week, Armand. Starting from the 20th to the 26th, it kind of really feels like a very dynamic week, to put it mildly. And really, I describe the energies as quite jagged. So, it's really going to have quite an impact around relationships. So I think, the first thing when I looked at it was I was thinking really for everyone to be a little cautious, to kind of maybe tiptoe around each other and be a little gentle, because it really is a very action-packed week. What are your thoughts?
It is a week of paradox. I'm not sure I want to say anything about this week because there's so many different things going on. On the other hand, I sort of feel that anything you say is liable to be right. We have, the moon is in the very end of the zodiac where we have these social, community-oriented, even cosmically oriented signs, and yet it's coming into the new moon, which is typically a more inward time. We have really hot aspects. We have a solar eclipse at the end of the week. So I think that there's liable to be a lot of tension in the air. And I think that the thing in relationship to be, cautious about is that you don't take what is generalized tension and project it onto your loved one.
I was thinking the very same thing when I was looking at these transits, and I was thinking how easy it is that, when there is somebody close to us that we're very comfortable with, that it's easy to take it out on them when actually there's something bubbling inside of us, and there's also something bubbling in the general collective. So really to use whatever tools we have to kind of release some of the tension, to maybe do some exercise, some meditation. I know we say this very often, but to keep grounded in ourselves and really to keep very centered in ourselves, and to remember kind of the basic qualities to do with love, which is about respect, and maybe having a little bit of space with somebody so that we don't dump some of those tensions and frustrations on someone else. So it's a very active week really in terms of Mars and in terms of Mercury. So Mars is going to be square Pluto, of course, and in fact the moon on Wednesday, which is it's really a very, very intense aspect. And then he goes on to conjunct Uranus on Sunday, which is also the solar eclipse, which, by the way, we're going to do a whole different recording on that. So what are some of your thoughts, Armand, on these strong Mars aspects?
Well, if it was the other side of the solar eclipse, new moon, I would say explosive. And there are some things on the other side of the solar eclipse, and Mars is going to go on and oppose Jupiter. So I think that we will get a fast start out of it. But I feel that this is almost a more implosive energy, like a time when the tensions come inward. And there could be a lot of, bubbling, seething, especially around midweek on Wednesday. There could really be this sort of these tense aspects there where you feel, you've had about enough. And I think, soon after, the new moon on Sunday, there's liable to be a release of that tension. I think that release is liable to go all through the following week. I think the Mercury aspects are going to help with communication, although maybe help is a little bit strong a word. I think, we'll be saying things, and whether or not they're really helpful and compassionate and useful is sort of up to us.
Yes, because Mercury is in an air sign, it's in Aquarius. And air, of course, is so heady, it's so intellectual, it's very good at logical planning. So it's great at, certainly in a work situation, but, with relationships where we're really always dealing with emotions. And I think sometimes we forget that because, of course, in the outer world, we're more really in our head, in our Mercury, in our sun. But once we shut the door and come home to loved ones, we're really very much in our moon. And so when Mercury is in an air sign, we may tend to intellectualize about things that really are more emotional, gutsy things. And because Mercury is contacting so many of the planets this week, it's really quite lively. So maybe to wait to have major talks until the weekend when Mercury moves into Pisces, which has a lot more compassion. It can be a little bit more confusing maybe, but in terms of relationships, it's certainly got a little bit more empathy, which is so important.
Well, the sun has moved into Pisces, and that helps a lot. We were really, for the past week, we've had very little water in the sky, And so there wasn't really much of an emotional tone to things, which was felt kind of good in a way, after having all that Piscean energy, which is we're going to be revisiting now. But I agree that, it helps to have a little bit more of a watery emotional tone. I would even suggest waiting until sometime in the following week. I think that, if it can wait, let it wait. I don't think that there's got to be, I don't think that it's a good time to necessarily, I mean, it's a, you should always express your feelings, but, if your feeling is rancor and bitterness and anger and seething and loathing, maybe it'd be better to just wait a little bit until you feel a little bit less of it. And, around eclipses, things get so built up anyway. Things get so incredibly, blown out of proportion that, maybe, feel it and then, try to release it in some other way. I'm not sure that it can be the best atmosphere for really productive conversations.
Yes, if we were to kind of summarize the week, really what we're saying is that it's a week to really be a little bit careful about how we express things, who we express them to, maybe do a bit of journaling before we say anything if we really have to say something, but maybe refrain from saying things that are very important or have long-term consequences, that there could be quite a lot of frustration around, maybe some implosion inside. So maybe some old feelings may also come to the surface, some old resentments and anger, not to project them onto loved ones. And to be aware that we are coming to the end of this eclipse season. So we're still kind of in that tense atmosphere of being between the bookends of the two eclipses. So to be a little gentle with ourselves, to maybe it's a week to keep maybe a little low, to read some nice books, do some meditation, be outdoors, and really in our interactions, just to be a little cautious.
I agree entirely. And as the week progresses, actually, believe it or not, Monday may be the best night to go out and have some fun. By the time we get to the weekend, we've got that new moon solar eclipse with Uranus and Mars conjunct. Yeah, maybe it's not a bad time to stay in.
Yeah, so maybe not quite date night, maybe just get a nice movie or maybe just relax, and for both people to be aware of what's going on with each other or with themselves, sorry, and to kind of be cautious.
Totally. But it's not bad. It's not bad. Everything's going to be fine.
Of course. We'll see you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye, Margaret.